Good morning, friends and enemies. We are on to week 2 of fantasy football, and this is the running back preview show, which goes live every Wednesday afternoon. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to catch it. Tomorrow will be the wide receiver version. Today's video, we will be going game by game, all 16 games on the slate for week 2, and we will be looking at every fantasy relevant running back, and we will be tiering them. We will be dropping them into a tier of must start, feel good to start, W flex, shaky flex, or rather not. All right, pretty self-explanatory. As always, you can get all of my rankings on BDGE.co. If you are a Big Dog member, you get the weekly rankings, you get the waiver wire rankings, and you get access to the private Q&A every Sunday morning before games kick off, where you can assault me with any questions that you may have. All right, let's move over to our big, beautiful chart here, and we will start with the Thursday Night Football game, Washington at Green Bay. Green Bay, 3.5-point favorites at home, 48.5-point over-under in this one. As always, we will start with the practice reports. We have a laundry list of players on here, a lot of full, a lot of limited, not too concerned about anyone in those two categories. For the DMPs, we are looking at Zach Tom, their offensive tackle for the Packers. He's a DMP on Monday. Jaden Reed dealing with the foot injuries, probably getting rest there, I'd assume. But if Zach Tom does not go, that is going to be a big hit for the Packers, though. It's not going to affect a guy like Josh Jacobs. He's going to be in your lineup as a must-start, regardless of Zach Tom being on the line or it being fucking Tom from MySpace. It doesn't matter. The other side of the ball, the other team, is where things get interesting here. You've got Ja'Cory Crosby-Moret. You've got Austin Eckler, and those are the two that you're even thinking about throwing into your lineup. Eckler, I think we know what we're getting here. He's going to be a shaky flex for me. He's a guy that's going to get 3 to 5 targets, 5 to 8 carries, maybe end up between 50 and 60 yards, could end up getting into the end zone every third game or so. You're not excited to play him, but like you could do worse in a PPR league. He saw about 40% of the snaps in week 1. JCM was only around 30% of the snaps, but Big Bill, I think, is going to start icing out Jeremy McNichols almost completely soon. He had the touchdown run. He had the nice 40-yard capper at the end of the game there against the Giants. This is a tougher defense in Green Bay, obviously, so I do want to temper expectations, especially until we get like a full feel that this backfield is now completely kind of separated into just Eckler and Ja'Cory Crosby-Moret here. So for now, he's going to be in the shaky flex category. If I had to choose between the two, I actually would start Bill over Austin Eckler, but I don't feel super duper confident about either of them in my lineup for the time being. Also, I know I see the comments of it being a little bit tough to read on mobile, and I don't think there's going to be anything I can do about that. There's obviously a lot of information on the screen. A lot of you guys want to be able to see all the tiers at once, so I will present this option to you guys. I can make the screen a lot smaller here, and you can kind of see everyone at once, but that almost like absolutely destroys the readability on mobile and some laptop screens. So like, look at the way it is right now. Would you prefer this if you're watching on TV or laptop, or the normal version that I kind of just had up here? I'm going to keep it to this for the remainder of the video. You guys, drop it in the comments below. And if there's a lot of people that like the really small version of it, which I'll show you at the end again when everybody's actually on the screen so you could get a better feel for it. And then I'll make a change tomorrow in the wide receiver version of this if you guys like the other way better. So moving on to game number 2, the Sunday slate of games. We're not going to have any practice reports, unfortunately, for Sunday yet. They come out later in the day on Wednesday. But I think this one is pretty clear cut. Like Chase Brown's going to go into the must-start category, had basically every single touch out of that backfield. This is a game the Bengals are playing at home. It is a 48.5-point total against the Jaguars. They're a 3.5-point favorite. So we are expecting a lot of points on both sides. I don't know how confident I feel about that based on the way that like Jacksonville's offense looked in week 1. But regardless, we had the major breakout from Travis Etienne in week 1. They shipped Tank Bigsby off to Philadelphia. So you've got this like mix of Bashaw Tutin and LaQuint Allen behind Travis Etienne. However, like you can't play those guys, of course. But Etienne, I mean, based on the way he looked and what his usage projects to be, I just don't see a world where in this matchup, if it was a tougher matchup, I wouldn't throw him right into the top category. But he's going to actually land into the, like, I don't see a world where Travis Etienne's not a top 15 running back this week based on workload, based on matchup, based on his usage, based on the fact that he's going to catch passes there. Again, if it was against maybe Houston's defense or Baltimore's defense or something like that, he'd range more in the middle of the feels good dub flex category. But for this week, I don't see a world where you don't start Travis Etienne. Moving to the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. For Dallas, we have Javonte Williams, who was operating as the workhorse for the Dallas Cowboys in week 1. He ended up scoring 2 touchdowns. Stat line wasn't overly encouraging. It was like 15 for 50 in that range. And I think that's going to be a decent amount of like the games that we see out of Javonte Williams in Dallas. If they get onto the goal line, though, he's going to score a decent amount of touchdowns. As the workhorse, I mean, I think Jerry Jones came out and said that he expects Jadon Blue to be inactive again, so it's just going to be Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders again. Yeah, I mean, it's Javonte's backfield completely until it's otherwise. So Javonte is going to be a feels good for me. I feel in this matchup, I feel good about having him in my RB2 slot. And as you can see from the matchup ranks on the bottom here, the Giants have the third worst EPA per rush after week 1. The other side of the ball is a little bit interesting. Tyrone Tracy, I know he had a really, really poor game in week 1 against Washington. Production-wise, he still saw about 75% of the snaps and did operate as a clear workhorse. The question becomes whether or not Andrew Thomas is back on the line and if this offense can move the ball like whatsoever. So I do still have confidence in Tracy's workload, but I have very little confidence in the Giants' ability to move the ball effectively and keep drives sustained and allow him to, have holes that open up. So this is going to be, you're going to have to keep an eye on practice reports as it relates to Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is just one of those tackles where like the team splits are outrageously different depending on whether or not he's on the field. So for right now, I like the matchup against Dallas. It's seeming like it's going to be a lot better of a matchup than what Washington is going to be this year, but I can't say I feel overly confident about it. So I'm going to put him in the shaky flex category, although I do think I'll probably put him around the top of the tier, given the fact that we can have some good confidence in the percentage of snaps he's going to play in that backfield. Scatterbo is like a 10% snap guy right now. So again, until we see otherwise there's no way you could put him in your lineup. Moving to Chicago at Detroit, another 1 o'clock game. We've got Detroit at home. They are 5.5 point favorites. The over-under in this game is 46.5 points. Tough to get a read on that NFC North right now. It seems like Green Bay is the dominant team there, but it's week 1, so we don't want to overreact. Detroit looked like they lost a lot of their sauce without Ben Johnson, but again, they still have a very talented roster. So not another one I want to overreact to in week 1, but it does seem we need to temper our expectations. That being said, Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, is a must start because he is a firework anytime he touches the ball. David Montgomery is the other interesting one where it feels like he's going to start to take a little bit of a back seat if they can't get their ground game going. Like he had Gibbs catch 10 passes in this one. They were trailing for the majority of the game, so I don't expect that to be the case the entire time. I think Minnesota looked relatively good on the ground against Chicago. Jordan Mason was able to effectively get some yards. I don't think they were like overly efficient. Aaron Jones did get it going in the passing game, so that does give us a little bit of hope for a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs. So Demont, I mean, just based off of last game, based off the way that the Lions were not able to move the ball, based off the way that their offensive line just got pushed around, he's going to go into the shaky flex category for me. Like I'm not putting him in the dub flex because I don't feel that great about owning him, but that being said, they are still 5.5 point favorites. So let's try to look at these games objectively, right? Like let's try to not overreact to week 1 and say, hey, Detroit, they're still a run first team. They're a team that is nearly touchdown favorites in this one, and the game total is almost 47 points. So David Montgomery, I think you could absolutely still flex despite the way that last week's game turned out. Chicago, Roschon Johnson did not play in week 1. Kyle Monangai played a little bit, but got 0 carries, got involved in the passing game with like a target or 2, but it was all DeAndre Swift in that backfield. He wasn't good. The run game wasn't good. The offensive line didn't look great. That being said, the volume is crazy. So I'm kind of looking at Swift the same way I looked at like Tony Pollard against Denver last week, where it's like, the matchup's going to be tough. He's going to get a lot of volume. He's probably going to have like 20 touches for 70 yards on the ground. Maybe he gets in, maybe not. I do think whether or not Roschon plays, which is another practice report we're going to have to keep an eye on, will be something that impacts the total workload of DeAndre Swift. But if he doesn't play, I still think DeAndre Swift's probably in for 20 touches or so, will be relatively involved in the passing game. And I don't feel terrible about having Swift in my lineup. So I'm going to put him into the dub flex category, even though I think you could make the case that he should be in the feels good category. But Detroit's run defense is going to be pretty good. They pretty much stifled Josh Jacobs last week. He got a big workload, got into the end zone, so his fantasy day was saved, but I don't think he was overly efficient on the ground. And DeAndre Swift is like the opposite of being efficient on the ground. But it was clear that last game, they did not want to give any carries to Kyle Monangai. So it still seems like it's completely Swift's backfield until otherwise. So you can obviously still start him. He's still a guy that's going to get a ton of touches. The Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. It is basically a pick 'em. They're in Miami. It's a 43.5 point total, which actually really surprised me because I think these two teams are set to score a decent amount of points in this game. This is one of my plays of the week, is the over on this game. I went to check the weather just to make sure there wasn't supposed to be like thunderstorms or whatever, but it's supposed to be 85 and sunny here. Obviously, Miami looked like an absolute fucking tragedy in week 1, and it's unfortunate if you drafted their passing offense, but I also don't think Tua is like a turnover machine, right? He's not a guy that's going to go out there and turn the ball over 3 times a game. Typically, I think that was a little bit more of an outlier. Like I do think their offense is going to be bad, but I don't think the way that the time of possession ended up being for Miami last week is going to be anything normal. It was like 38-21, which is way more lopsided than any normal NFL game. So I do think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think the Patriots defense is very good. I think they're going to be good against the ground game. Regardless, like Devon Achane, there's no chance you take him out of your lineup. But as you can see, like their EPA against the rush, they are one of the toughest in the NFL to run against, with Christian Barmore back, with Milton Williams there, Harold Landry out there. Like they have some players that are making plays out there and really making it tough for running backs. But Achane's so involved in the passing game, it doesn't matter. Something's going on with Tyreek Hill, more domestic stuff. So I'm not sure if he's playing this one. I'm assuming he will, but maybe not. The other side of the ball is what we're really talking about here. You got Ramondre, you got Travion Henderson. Last week, Ramondre outsnapped him. It was like 65-35 in terms of percentage. And that was kind of like what we predicted throughout the summer, at least to start the season. I don't think that's going to remain the case. Travion's got a nice floor, though, as the pass catching back. Like he caught 6 passes last week. And I think that really matters to me. And I think this Miami pass defense is going to be so bad. And it's the reason why I actually feel good about starting Travion Henderson. I don't feel bad about starting Ramondre Stevenson either. I think he's going to get enough work. I think there's a good chance they find themselves on the goal line and that there's a good chance he's the pure goal line back here. That being said, I don't feel great about having him in my flex, like as a starter here. So I'm not going to go as far as putting him into the dub flex category. He's going to go into the shaky flex. But again, like the other guys in this category, I think you could do a lot worse. And I haven't been putting any of these other ones into like the rather not category, but I think that goes without saying. The Ollie Gordons, the Antonio Gibsons, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it might seem weird that Travion, despite playing 35% of the snaps to Ramondre's 65%, is in the dub flex. I just think the Miami defense is kind of primed to allow explosive plays, and I think this is a game where Travion Henderson gets in space and has one of them. Buffalo at the New York Jets. So we have the New York Jets coming out and just looking like every other team's looked in the AFC East for the last 20 years, except for the New York Jets. And, you know, Breece Hall looked like what he looked like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Completely different player than what he looked like last year. It was crazy. At this point, like, you got to feel phenomenal about having Breece Hall. The one problem is, of course, that he's not going to score rushing touchdowns, right? And he needs those big plays and he needs the volume. He needs, 15, 18, 20 touches and needs to be involved in the passing game. Justin Fields is going to take so much rushing work. We also saw Braylon Allen get the touchdown inside the 10-yard line. So that puts him more into the feels good category, but I still feel good about playing him. James Cook, we saw him play a ton on third downs as well. So if he becomes more and more involved in the passing game, I just don't see a world where you're not starting James Cook in this one. The Bills are 7-point favorites. It's a 46.5-point total. They should probably dominate game script. Not much else to say here. This is not a Braylon Allen game script game, so I'm going to put him into the rather not category. Moving to Seattle at Pittsburgh, and this might be one of the tougher games to decipher on the entire slate as it relates to fantasy running backs. So we'll start with Seattle. Definitely concerning if you're a Kenneth Walker owner. It's one of two things. Like, this game was never out of hand. This was not a game script thing where they were like, Zach Charbonnet's skill set matches what we're doing better. I don't think Kenneth Walker was injured mid-game because he played throughout the game. Maybe that foot injury he's been dealing with is a little bit more severe than we were led on to believe throughout the summer. He was resting multiple practices at a time. Regardless, they clearly like Zach Charbonnet. You don't like accidentally play a guy 60% of the time to Kenneth Walker's 40% when Kenneth Walker is as talented as he is. There's something going on there. They either think very highly of Charbonnet. They either think Walker's hurt. They either think, they're the same level of talent, or Charbonnet fits their offense. Something's going on there. Charbonnet had more snaps. He had more rush attempts. He ran more routes. He was playing on the short down and distance rolls. Inside the 5-yard line, he got the goal line carries, long down and distance. Like, a lot of it was Charbonnet, man. Kenneth Walker got a lot of bullshit. And I will say, like, the offensive line as a whole did no favors. Like, Kenneth Walker was getting hit as soon as he touched the ball. But that's just the reality of the situation right now. Until they improve as an offensive line, it's going to be hard to make the case for Kenneth Walker when he's splitting a backfield 50-50. So for right now, against Pittsburgh, which I guess maybe they're not that good of a run defense. You think of Pittsburgh as this fucking solid defense that you can't do anything against. And the Jets literally were allowed to do whatever they wanted, through the air, on the ground, whatever. So maybe the matchup isn't that good, but trying to predict the backfield right now, I think you have to put Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker both in the shaky flex category. Like, would it surprise anyone if one of them ended up having a good game or scoring a touchdown, or Walker broke out a long run? No, of course not. And I actually would rank Walker above Charbonnet And maybe that's going to look foolish at the end of the day. And maybe that's going to be like a, just a fucking sheep take in a couple of weeks. But for now, I think I'm going to hold strong with him. But he is in the shaky flex category where I don't feel great about starting him. It's just like until we get a clearer picture on a week-to-week basis, it's very, very hard to set either of these guys in your lineup. On the Pittsburgh side of things, I mean, Caleb Johnson was completely iced, so you're not playing him at all. Kenneth Gainwell, I get it. He played a lot of snaps. He caught some passes. He's almost like a watered-down version of Austin Eckler, which I don't know if I could find something more disrespectful to say about a player at this point. He's going to be in the rather not category for me. Jaylen Warren, I mean, this is going to be a tough Seattle defense to really move the ball against. Like Christian McCaffrey got a ton of work, but he wasn't overly efficient by any means. Not on the ground. He got a lot of pass catching work. I think Jaylen Warren will continue to work more and more into this offense to become a bigger part of the offense over Kenneth Gainwell. He did get into the end zone. They've got his lines right now at 41.5 rushing yards, 12.5 receiving yards. I'm going to throw him into the shaky flex category. Again, just shaky flex is like guys you can flex, guys that are, in the conversation there, but you just don't feel great about it. Cleveland at Baltimore. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and probably start Derrick Henry. He's a pretty good ball player. I think he's just entering his prime. What a time to be alive. On the other side of things, we've got, I don't think Quinshon Judkins is going to play. If that changes things up, obviously, this is going to become a little bit more irrelevant, and Judkins is going to make his way into the lineup and become a player, but I'm not going to play him. So we'll put him into the rather not for now. On the other side of things, Jerome Ford is a 0. He is literally dead to me. Dylan Sampson, though, 20 touches in week 1. Like 8 catches. Joe Flacco is just a check down merchant. We have Cleveland at Baltimore. They are in Baltimore. Baltimore is 11.5 point favorites right now. 45.5 point total. So unsurprisingly, they are expecting the game script to be just Baltimore, 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 and a little bit more Baltimore on the side. So that does favor the game script of the Browns and Joe Flacco, checking down to Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson's a really tough one to rank this week because I do think he probably has a floor similar to like Travion Henderson, where he's going to likely see 5 to 6 receptions in this game. The rushing, though, he went, 12 for 24 on the ground last week. I know Baltimore let up a lot of yards to the Buffalo offense, but Buffalo's offense and Josh Allen are tremendous. And I think Baltimore's defense, within a couple weeks, all of these numbers are going to turn red, and they're going to be one of the most feared defenses in the NFL. So as much as I want to be on the hype of Dylan Sampson's week 1, I do think it would be more responsible to put him into the tier with guys like Tyrone Tracy and JCM. He's probably at the top of the tier because I do think he has a really nice floor in PPR, but I am hesitant to throw him into the category where I'm like, yeah, he's just going to be awesome for me going forward because of the matchup. If this was a better matchup, I'd feel a lot better about him. He'd definitely be in the dub flex category, but I don't want to underrate what the Baltimore defense might be able to do to Cleveland in this game. We've got the Los Angeles Rams at Tennessee. The Rams are 5.5 point favorites, 41.5 point total here. Pretty ugly out here, right? We got Kyron Williams. He's just going to go into the must-start category. No one else behind him is getting any work. And I think you're going to put Tony Pollard in the same category. It's going to be similar to last week where they played against Denver, who's a really good run defense. The Rams are like a pretty good run defense, but they're probably a little bit better against the pass. So I'm not overly concerned about the matchup for Tony Pollard. Like he'll get, again, the 20 touches. So I'm going to put him into the feels good category for right now. Until we see Tennessee's offense really break out, we'll have to wait on the upside of Pollard. San Francisco at New Orleans. So you got New Orleans at home. They are 4.5 point underdogs. Feels like a low number. Feels like a little bit of a trap play, but I guess, we're still waiting on word from Brock Purdy. George Kittle is out. Jawan Jennings could be out in this one too. So they are missing a lot of players. So I guess I understand why the spread is that low. It is a 42.5 point total. This one's kind of clear cut. Christian McCaffrey, of course, is going into the must-start category. They're going to ride him until the wheels fall off. Brian Robinson, I mean, he did get 10 touches in this one, and this should be a game script where they do want to carry the ball a lot. Maybe they look back at last week and they're like, this is not sustainable for Christian McCaffrey getting him 30 touches, and we do want to give Brian Robinson a little bit more work as the season progresses and he gets a little more comfortable with the offense and the scheme and the plays and all that kind of stuff. That being said, I mean, you can't really put him in your lineup right now. He's in a rather not, but I got to be honest, he's probably closer to the shaky flex. Maybe he's in the middle there, but still, you're not trying to start Brian Robinson right now. Alvin Kamara, a little bit of a disappointing day last week, but we're not going to overthink this one. Tough matchup, but he is still the workhorse there in New Orleans, so he's going to go into the feels good category. Moving into the afternoon slate of games, we've got Denver at Indianapolis. We've got Denver as 2.5 point favorites, 42.5 point total here. I mean, Denver's just going to be a very, very ferocious run defense. We do have some interesting storylines in this one. We have Daniel Jones coming off of an absolutely tremendous first game, stealing 2 goal line scores from Jonathan Taylor. But JT, I believe he played like 43 of the first 43 snaps for the Indianapolis Colts. You know, no surprise there. This is, again, of course, going to be a really, really tough matchup for the ground game of the Indianapolis Colts. And with Daniel Jones stealing some goal line work, I think I'm going to put JT into the feels good category. He's obviously at the very, very top of it. And there's no real world where you're actually sitting him. So maybe we're just, talking for the sake of fucking yapping at this point. But I just want to say, like, when you do see my rankings come out, again, you can get them on bdge.co. JT is going to be much closer to the bottom of the must start early feels good tier than he will in the middle of the must start tier. Other side of the ball, you got Dobbins and you've got RJ Harvey. And the Colts last week, despite dominating the Miami Dolphins, as you could see here, they had the second worst EPA per rush on the ground. 1 game sample size. So again, we're not going to lose our minds here. I do think Denver's ground game will get better and better as the course of the season goes on. I think Bo Nix played a terrible game and will also get a little bit better as the season progresses. Dobbins got the majority of the carries in this one. He ended up getting into the end zone, which kind of saved his day. And RJ Harvey didn't play too much, only 30% of the snaps, didn't get a lot of touches, didn't get a lot of carries, but he did break off that 50-yard run towards the end of the game, which I do think is something that just earns you more playtime. And we'll see the split get closer and closer as the year progresses. You have Tyler Bidet, who was in there as like the pass catching back for the beginning part of the game. Hopefully he just gets iced out by RJ Harvey completely. I can't say that with confidence though, unless we feel like Harvey's pass blocking ability has gotten much better, which I don't know that I could say that. So for right now, I'm actually going to put both of them. Feels weird to do this, but I'm going to put both of them into the shaky flex category. Dobbins much closer to the top, with Harvey probably settling on the bottom until we see an actual workload increase. Like if a guy's getting less than 10 touches per game, you can't really feel great about him. Moving to Carolina at Arizona. We're not going to overdink this one. This is going to be James Conner right into the must-start category. Like the Panthers' run defense might just be, I mean, last year they were all-time bad. They were like the worst run defense we've ever seen, and it doesn't look like they're getting any better as we saw Travis Etienne rip them apart last week. Trey Benson got involved a little bit, and this is a good game script. Like they are 6.5-point favorites, the Cardinals are, and it's a 44.5-point total. So I'm actually going to throw Trey Benson into the shaky flex tier. Like I think he's semi-usable, kind of in the same vein that I was saying with Brian Robinson Jr., but I feel more, I guess, concrete about Trey Benson's role. Like he is playing on a lot of the third downs. He is playing in some passing situations. And again, if game script gets out of hand and they give James Conner 20 carries, like I bet some of those will overflow into Benson's hands, and maybe the game gets out of hand to the point where they're using him on the goal line instead of Connor, like towards the end, and he can get in there for a touchdown. So I think you could do worse than him, but obviously I'm not like trying to start him. Chuba Hubbard, yeah, he's going to go into the feels good category. Got almost every single touch in that backfield last week. I think the Arizona Cardinals defense is probably pretty good here, but they're not really doing anything with Rico Dowdle or Trevor Etienne. Chuba Hubbard is the guy that they trust incredibly here. So Chuba Hubbard's feel good for sure. Philly at KC, of course, we're going Saquon into the must start tier. Everybody else, I mean, like Kareem Hunt, for sure, rather not. I don't even know if Tank's going to be active for this one. Maybe he is for like kick return or something. Isaiah Pacheco is a really tough one, man. Like they really split this backfield kind of exactly how we were talking about it over the course of the summer. Pacheco, 48% of the snaps. Kareem Hunt, 40%. Brashard Smith, 14%. I mean, they were all running routes. They were all getting carries. They were all in different plays in different situations here. These are Pacheco's lines for the upcoming game. Almost 2-1 to score a touchdown, 34.5 rushing yards, 8.5 receiving yards, 1.5 receptions. I do think with all these players out, though, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, there's a chance that maybe they utilize the running backs a little bit more in the passing game. That being said, I don't think you can look at Pacheco as anything more than a shaky flex, and even then, I feel a little bit gross. He's almost closer to the rather not category. But moving to Sunday Night Football, we have got the Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. The Falcons are 4.5-point dogs. This is a 44.5-point total. Bijan, of course, going right into the must-start category. Tyler Algier is in the rather not. Now, does get a little bit interesting here with the Minnesota Vikings running backs. You've got Aaron Jones, who was basically operating as the wide receiver 3, if not like the wide receiver 2 in this offense with J.J. McCarthy, and then Jordan Mason as the rusher, right? Like Jones couldn't really get much going on the ground. They put Mason in as like the big bruising workhorse guy, which is kind of what we expected throughout the summer, and that just came to fruition here. And I think the Falcons defense is we're okay against the run. I don't think it's one you need to shy off of. I'm going to put Aaron Jones for sure into the dub flex category. I think he looked good enough. I think he's going to get involved in the receiving game enough, especially when Jordan Addison is out. I think, this is a game in the dome. This could be a little bit higher scoring than anticipated. So Jones is going to go into the dub flex. Mason's not far off there. I'm going to throw him into the shaky flex category because realistically, he needs to get a goal line carry. Like, he's not going to be very involved in the passing game. So we need to get him inside the 2-yard, inside 3-yard line. And then also they need to run the ball down there. So it's a little bit too much of a split with him not getting too many of the valuable touches for me to throw him into the dub flex category so far. Now we have 2 Monday night games in week 2. I hate when they do this shit, but nonetheless, they do it. They've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Houston. Houston is 2.5-point favorites at home. 42.5-point total. And this was one of my concerns with Kyron Williams last week, which we bet the under on. We nailed that in our big day parlay. The Texans' run game is really, their defense against the run is really strong. That being said, again, I just don't see a world where you could ever sit Bucky Irving. He has really transformed into the guy that we wanted him to be in year 2 in terms of like just overall play time. 77% of the snaps compared to Rachaad White's 25%. Bucky saw 78% of the carries to Rachaad White's 11. He also ran, which is most important, 57% of the routes compared to Rachaad White's 22%, and played in the 2 and 4 minute drill situations. So great usage for Bucky Irving. Outside of that, there's no one that I want to play. Nick Chubb is going to get the carries, but he's going to go. What he did last week, 13 for 60, not involved in the passing game. Does Houston find themselves on the goal line? Possibly. I think the Tampa Bay Bucks run defense can be okay, especially with Vita Vea in the middle. He gets the volume, so I'm going to throw him into the shaky flex category, but very much at the bottom of it for Nick Chubb. And then the last game of the slate, we've got the Chargers at the Raiders. The Chargers are 3.5-point favorites. They're on the road. It is a 46.5-point total here. The only 2 running backs we are talking about are Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton, the 2 first-round rookies battling it off. You love to see it. Jeanty, 19 carries in the first one, not efficient whatsoever on the ground, but that was an offensive line problem. I mean, they gave him absolutely no push. He was getting eaten behind the line of scrimmage, and I don't think the Chargers are necessarily easy matchup for running backs, despite them being ranked number 1 in EPA per rush in terms of friendliest matchups to the running back position. But I'm not going to overthink it. Jeanty's going to be a 20-touch guy. So he's going to go into the feels good category, but very much in that Jonathan Taylor tier where it's like, I put him in the feels good category, but like you're starting him, of course. Omarion Hampton, loved the usage in week 1. Dominated the snaps, looked relatively good. Yeah, the usage was spicy. 80% of snaps, 83% of rushing attempts, 60% of routes, 100% of the short down and distance snaps, 82% of the long down and distance snaps. We just need some goal line carries out there. Herbert was simply just like too good. He was just dicing them up through the air to a level that didn't allow the running backs to really shine in this one. And I think against the Raiders, they'll get a goal line carry or 2. So Omarion Hampton is going to be a guy I feel really good about. That being said, I do think Najee Harris, again, as he gets more conditioned, he gets back into football shape, I think this will go from an 80-20 split to something closer to like 70-30, 68-32 in that range. And Omarion Hampton's still going to be, a really strong player to throw into your lineup. I feel really good about him this week. He's going to go into the feels good again, but at the top of that category. So that's all the games for you. I will zoom out to show you what I was talking about in terms of seeing all the tiers at once. So this is like the full screenshot of the rankings. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys prefer this view more so, I know this is going to be literally impossible to see on mobile, but maybe this is better for laptop or computer or TV, desktop, whatever. You guys let me know. I know this is like, it's nicer to be able to see everyone at once, but when you're ranking 50 players, it's tough to make everybody happy out here, but I'm only one jolly old St. Nicholas, trying to do my best. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. As always, tomorrow will be the same thing, just the wide receiver version of it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want my rankings, which will be going live later today, that is bdge.co. Become a Big Dog member. I love y'all. I'm out. Smoochies.